Emma stared at her computer screen, the glow reflecting in her tired eyes. Deadlines loomed, clients demanded. The life of a freelance graphic designer was not always glamorous. She sighed, pushing back a stray strand of hair. Her apartment, nestled in a quiet corner of Brooklyn, was a mess of design sketches, half-eaten takeout containers, and the comforting clutter of a life lived on her own terms. A ping from her inbox broke her concentration. Another email, probably another client request for a last-minute revision. She clicked it open, expecting the usual. Instead, her breath caught in her throat. The subject line read, "Your father's legacy." Her father, gone for 10 years now, taken too soon by a sudden illness. He had been a history professor, a quiet and bookish man who had filled their home with stacks of dusty volumes and tales of ancient civilizations. She had never known him to have any secrets, let alone a legacy. The email was short, cryptic. "The answers you seek are closer than you think. Find Mr. Grayson at the ancient page. He will guide you." It was unsigned, sent from an anonymous address. A chill ran down Emma's spine. Who would send such a message? Emma read the email again, each word sending a fresh wave of unease through her. It felt like someone was watching her, knew her deepest secrets. Her father's work had always held a certain mystique for her. He had spent years researching ancient cultures, traveling to remote corners of the world. Could there be more to his research than she knew? She couldn't shake the feeling that this email, as strange and unsettling as it was, held some kind of key, a key to understanding her father, his life, maybe even her own. The address for the ancient page was included in the email, a small bookstore tucked away in Greenwich Village. Emma had walked past it countless times, drawn in by its quaint charm but never stepping inside. Closing her laptop, Emma made a decision. She had to know the truth. She had to find out what her father had been involved in. Maybe this Mr. Grayson held the answers she had been searching for. Grabbing her jacket, she headed out, the email clutched in her hand like a lifeline to a past she thought was lost. The streets of Brooklyn bustled with life, the city's energy a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside her. Every fiber of her being screamed at her to turn back, to forget about the email and return to her normal life. But something, a deep-seated need to understand her father's legacy, spurred her on. The ancient page was smaller than Emma remembered, tucked between a vintage clothing store and a cozy coffee shop. The window display was a jumble of antique globes, faded maps, and leather-bound books with titles in languages she couldn't decipher. Taking a deep breath, Emma pushed open the door, a small bell tinkling softly to announce her arrival. The air inside was thick with the smell of old paper and leather, a comforting aroma that transported Emma back to her childhood, to rainy afternoons spent browsing her father's library. The shop was crammed floor to ceiling with books, their spines a kaleidoscope of colors and textures. Behind a massive oak desk piled high with even more books sat a man. He was older, his hair a shock of white against his tanned skin, his eyes a piercing blue that seemed to see right through her. He wore a tweed jacket and a neatly trimmed beard, giving him the air of a kindly professor. "You must be Emma," he said, his voice surprisingly deep and resonant. "I've been expecting you." "Mr. Grayson?" Emma asked, her voice barely a whisper. "How did you know it was me?" The old man smiled, a knowing glint in his eye. "Your father told me to expect you, or rather, his legacy did." He gestured to a dusty, leather-bound journal lying on the desk. "This is for you. It contains everything you need to know." Emma cautiously picked up the journal, its worn leather soft beneath her fingertips. The cover was devoid of any markings, its pages yellowed with age. As she opened it, a musty scent filled her nostrils as if the book itself held centuries of secrets. The first page bore a single word, scrawled in her father's familiar handwriting: Chrono disc. Her father's meticulous notes filled the pages that followed, detailing his research into an ancient artifact of immense power. The Chrono disc, according to his findings, was a device capable of manipulating time itself. It was said to be hidden in a secret temple, lost somewhere in the Peruvian Andes. As Emma delved deeper into her father's research, she discovered that he believed the Chrono disc was more than just a legend. He was convinced that it was real, and that it held the key to preventing a catastrophic event that could threaten humanity. He had dedicated his life to finding it, driven by a sense of urgency that resonated through his words. Mr. Grayson, observing her with a paternal warmth, confirmed her father's suspicions. "The chrono disc is very real, Emma," he said, his voice low and serious. "And it's more powerful than anyone can imagine. Your father believed that it could be used for good, to prevent disasters and right past wrongs."